Hey guys, thanks for checking out the channel. Tobin here with you. Appreciate you guys checking us out as we are counting down to the Week 2 matchup against the New England Patriots. Always a fun matchup. Tua never lost to Bill Belichick as the starting quarterback. They're going to Foxborough, prime time matchup. I was listening to those Yahoos up at WEEI today. They're still sticking with Mac Jones. I think he's got a higher ceiling. I beg to differ. In fact, Tua was talking about this matchup coming up with Mac Jones and his former Alabama teammate, and he's ready for it.
You know, I know that Mac's a competitor. I know that he's going to want to make things right. So it's a no-brainer for me that regardless of the outside talk, you know, that he's going to be himself, that he's going to go out there and do all he can to help his team win. But, yeah, you know, Bama on Bama. That's what happened last week with Jalen and Mac, and then Mac's got to go again, Bama on Bama. So, you know, we'll see. It'll be fun.
Yeah, there we go, baby. And it's one of those things with Mac Jones where, you know, he's obviously got a lot to prove this year. A lot of pressure on him in New England, man. A lot of pressure on being the, being that guy and trying to see if he can figure it out after what a tumultuous year he had last year. Interestingly, going through a lot of what Tua went through with the uncertainty with your offensive coordinator. Definitely has a more credible guy this year. But, Miami really does, I think, the story as much as it is with Tua. And I think with Tua versus Herbert, man, that was a very, very sexy matchup. It wasn't really a quarterback duel. I mean, it was more like Tua versus the run game of the Chargers. And I think that's the big question coming into this week is that the Miami Dolphins put a lot of money into Vic Fangio. You know, they first of all, Vic Fangio, not only a lot of money into him, but there was like a lot of flirtation. And then there was this, is he going to be here? Is he going to go somewhere else? He got, this huge contract to basically be the defensive head coach. Like he is not the head coach, but that's his baby. That's what he runs. He's obviously got a lot of credibility. Bill Belichick, of course, was a man of many words. I was like, Vic, I've been doing it a while. And yeah. I was like, oh, riveting. Thank you, Bill Belichick. Thank you for giving that to us, dude. That's it's much appreciated. I really feel riveted. But today, Fangs was, taking the accountability on, took it on the chin where he's out here and he's blaming that performance from what happened there and just said that the game was, in a performance from that, was good enough to win a shootout, not good enough to win a lot of games, which I agree with. I think that the thing with the Dolphins is we look at this team and that defense, and people keep saying, like, this is a defense that has a lot of talent. It has a lot of great names. I remember I was hearing, Joe on the way in one time driving the station. He thinks that there's more talent on the defense than there is the offense. I disagree, because I think the best players all lie on the offensive side of the football. But I get what he's saying, that and you have a big expectation. You see guys like Xavier Howard, Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer, not even mentioning Jalen Ramsey because he hasn't even been unboxed yet. Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips, everybody thinks the world of. Bradley Chubb, I don't know where the dude is. And that's kind of been our whole experience so far with Bradley Chubb is like you added him in here. You had this injury to Emmanuel Ogbah last year. Ogbah was your pass rush leader coming into last year. He gets hurt. You make the move for Chubb to make this push. You give him this big money, but really hasn't flourished. Now you bring in a guy that he did flourish under in Vic Fangio, but yeah, the expectations are going to be there right away. And I think one of the things that was surprising is as good as Austin Eckler is, and he is that, hey, he's good. I think we all went into that thinking to ourselves, oh, well, they're going to try and pass it. They're going to try and throw it all over. And, man, they just got busted up the middle. They got gutted. And I think for Miami, they go into this matchup against New England, a team that nobody would ever argue that New England has more firepower than the Chargers do. The Chargers certainly have the better weapons, but you do need to show a bit of a grasp, because I think that as much as people don't respect Mac Jones and respect maybe those weapons, they're fine. We know that they got some decent tight end talent. The receivers, New England, they always are upset with their receivers. They never seem to put value into that. But I think for Fangs coming out here and trying to get things right is huge. And Wilkins had said like this week, he's like, that wasn't up to our standard. It wasn't up to snuff. But for Fangio, he took the blame. This was his message to everybody. He said, quote, on giving up the run, he said, that was basically my fault. Just didn't have the guys ready to play the type of game I think they're capable of playing. Somewhere along the line, I didn't do a good job of preparing for the run game during the week. 10 days of preparation because we started that week early. So somewhere along the line, I missed getting that ready. Now, look, great for Vic Fangio to take it on the chin. That's the good thing the coach does, and I think especially is it probably in line with Mike McDaniel, who is a very player-heavy coach. Vic is a guy where they've said, like, he's not a guy who's, like, reaming guys out on the field. He wants to let guys go out there and do their thing. But once the meeting starts, the film goes on, I'm sure he let them have it because it was just one of these things where it's like, man, are you guys just getting out-muscled and hustled here? You getting blown off the ball? We're not going to come through with anything. Now they did ultimately come through with that big stop there at the last minute. They had a couple of big stops. They had that, and then of course they had the play of Kader Kohu late in that game to force the big touchdown to Tyreek Hill. The other thing that we got to watch out for in this is on the health side of things. You have a lot of linemen on the Patriots are banged up going into this. And some guys aren't practicing. A lot of guys are, limited practice right now. But that is definitely something to keep an eye on. That their line is a little bit shaky going into this. They got off to a really, really slow start in the last game. Had a pick six early on, a really comical one that Mac Jones threw up there. You could have thrown some cartoon music to it. So this should be right for the Dolphins to do a lot better. Hard to think that the Dolphins defense is going to do worse because as great and as exciting as the offense was, it was concerning that it took a while for everything to get going for that Dolphins defense to get right and get things. But I appreciate Fangs. I appreciate him going out there and it's one of those things. I know he mentioned about the blitzing today that he likes to have that element of surprise, which I think is certainly something that you did happen on the success to get to Justin Herbert. When it was Kohu and it was on that last drive, they did really well when they sent pressure. You can't just do it all the time. That's what we saw last year, and they could get picked apart at times. So having those things for the Miami Dolphins is going to be a critical thing going into this matchup against the New England Patriots and bringing everything they can to the table with this thing. As far as Teron Armstead is concerned, Teron Armstead was limited in practice today, and we'll see where he's at. On the injury report, it's listed as back, ankle, and knee. I would say I wouldn't mind the Dolphins going another week without him. I think that the big thing with Teron that I'm looking for is that this guy was not ready coming into the season. Physically, he was not up to speed. He was not ready for what this game was going to bring. And we know that he's already injury prone as it is. I think you want him as perfect and ready as possible instead of bringing him back, because I think one of the things that was great with last week is we saw, hey, what Mike McDaniel said was true. They are a capable line without him. They do not need to have the Hail Mary of guys off the street with Teron there. I think that it's probably best that they go another week if they can, if they feel like it. I'm sure that he's chomping at the bit because, look, he doesn't want to be the guy that is banged up and not out there. The other side of that, though, is he's got his contract, he's got his money. I think the whole point is to have him ready for the bulk of this season and not let's do the in, the out thing. Let's put him out there half-assed, and he's not playing within the system. He's doing what he has to do to just kind of survive and lean on his instincts, and he's not doing all of the right things. He's just doing what he can to do a viable job. And so from my standpoint, I don't see really the point in rushing him out there, especially after seeing what the line was able to do. I think that you saw it was able to buy them a little bit of time. And every once in a while, if you see your team seems like they can get by with something, yeah, maybe, you think you're playing with fire, but I think that Kendall Lamb, Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Connor Williams snapping is probably like the most questionable thing that we got to worry about right now with this line. Everybody else after that first week looked like they did a really, really bang up job. So I would slow roll it with Teron Armstead, but you never know. It's always such a mystery with him.